Hello friends, how are you all? I hope you may fine. After the long period of time, we all are going to meet through the electronic media. Due to this very big tragedy and a crisis created by a new emergency that's called COVID-19. Friends, we all know that it's almost impossible to arrive in the school due to the government lockdown and strict rules and regulations to control this very tragic virus that almost affected all over the world country. First, I would like to congratulate all because you all are promoted in standard 9 and as your year passed, I hope that you might be worked very hard during the 8th standard, but unfortunately due to this big tragedy, right, you cannot appear in the annual examination. Okay, but as you all know that and sure about one thing that you all are promoted in standard 9, let us try to learn and be little clear about the standard 9 social science textbook. As you all know that I am Gopal Desai is going to teach you social science during the whole year. So this slide is simple introductory slide for you people that standard 9 social science and I am a subject teachers of yours. I will be with you during the whole year. I will make you assure and I make you assure that you will not have any problem with this social science subject because we are going to learn this subject with conceptual approach. I would like to clarify what is conceptual approach. Conceptual approach means the subject is not taught with the reference of examination, but the subject is taught to you with knowledge oriented orientation skill, with information orientation skill. So lots of referential information will be given to you, lots of referential historical quotation given to you, then lots and lots of examples and a detailed discussion will be going on to make you understand and make you able to understand the historical and civic and geographical facts and information. So this is a very brief information about our approach during the year. So one thing must be clear to you, we are going to learn 9 social science with conceptual approach that will help you to understand this book very nice. And once you understand 9 standard book, 9 standard social science, then it will be easy for you people to understand 10 standard textbook because both of these textbooks are framed by GSEB, not by CBSE. So many geographical chapters, many civic chapters and 2 or 3 historical chapters help you to understand historical facts in standard 9 also. So let us try to understand the concept of social science. Okay, so I am not in a favor to start a lesson number 1 without understanding the structure of the textbook, because what will happen if you not able to understand how a textbook is framed and which kind of chapters are there in history, which kind of chapters are there in civic, which kind of chapters are there in geography, then I am very sure that will be a very big academic accident for you people. So let us try to understand first the concept of social science. Okay, the heading is given here, the concept of social science. Our textbook is divided into 3 segments. First is called Unit 1, that 20th century, the world and India. Second is Unit 2, making of modern nation, and Unit 3, India, its land and people. Okay. Unit 1 is history part, Unit 2 is civic part, and Unit 3 is geography part. So let us try to understand Unit 1 first. Okay, we do have a history in Unit 1, but the history is all about 20th century, the world and India. So our history starts from discoveries of new sea route, that's approximately 1400 AD, and ends with the independence of India. So in history part, we do have a chapters that how the different tribes arrived in India. Western tribes, Britishers, then Dutch, then Portuguese, then French and Danish, okay, etc. etc. The history starts from them. Then gradually they conquered India, and finally India became colony of European power. So that's end with the independence of India, and the last chapter in the history tells about how India got independent, then which are the problems or which kind of problems we face before the independence and during the independent movements. So this is all about historical chapters that deals with 20th century, the world and India. We don't have ancient history, right? That starts by, we don't have an ancient history, that means Vedas, Upanishads and Dholadira and Mohenjo-daros, right? That's called ancient history. That's also called era of Mahabharata, era of Upanishads, era of Puranas, and it's also called Indus Valley civilization. We don't have that history. We do have a history of 20th century. Okay, so historical part may be clear to you. I am going to discuss all the units in details in chapter titles. But Unit 2, making of modern nation. So when India get independent, then we start to proceed a constitution. Then we start to framing a assembly, that's called Lok Sabha and Vidhan Sabha, Rajya Sabha, right? Then federal government, national government, etc. etc. So to govern the country democratically, and it's all about our fundamental rights, fundamental duties, constitutions, articles, and judiciary, democratic system. So our series is all about such topics. So you may clear about with the civic. Then Unit 3, India, its land and people. So you all know that Indian geography is full of similarities, because in the northern eastern side of India, we do have a Himalaya, Himalaya mountain ranges. Then we do have a plains in the states like Punjab, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan and Gujarat. We do have a desert, right, in Rajasthan and Gujarat. Then we do have two Malwa means plateaus, that's Malwa plateaus and Deccan plateaus. Then it's all about seesaw, then types of land, and forest, that means rainy forest in the eastern side of India where the highest rainfall is noted. Then desert forest, then green forest, etc. etc. So first two chapters of Unit 3, it's all about different type of geography of India. Then it's also talks about means people, different people of different regions of India, because you may practically notate that all the people of different regions of India haven't a same look. They have a different look. They do have a different body structure. Suppose Gujarati people is not look like a same as Rajasthani people and Kashmiri people. Kashmiri people are more fair in compared to Gujarati people and Rajasthani people, while people from South India are little means a little black or somehow a solid black compared to Kashmiri people. So how does it happen? It's lots of reasons are there due to weather, due to genetic functioning, then many other reasons play a vital role that we all discuss in details when we when we talk about land and people. So you may all clear about one thing that our textbook is divided into three segments. Unit 1, 20th century, the world and India. Unit 2, making of modern nation, right? Which kind of chapters are there in Unit 2? And Unit 3, India, its land and people. Okay, so this is our nature, nature of our textbook, and we are going to learn a 9th standard textbook with three different segments and with the three different segments with the various information. So now now we are going to but before going to another chapter Unit 1 in detail, my humble request to you, please note down these headings in your notebook. Okay friends, now we do have a Unit 1, 20th century, the world and India. It's also it's also in the same history part. In history part we do have chapters, right? First chapter is rise of British rule in India, then First World War and Russian Revolution, movements towards a new world, national movements in India, then movement towards independence, and world after 1945 and post-independence India. So these are the chapters we are going to learn in a history part. So I am going to give you a very brief introduction of all chapters. In these chapters, the rise of British rule in India, we are going to learn how British arrived in India and how other tribes, European tribes, arrived in India. So Portuguese was the first tribe who arrived in India. Then after Dutch, Danish, French and last British. In this chapter, we are going to learn how British colonized India through different policies, how different Governor General and Viceroys, different Governor General and Viceroys conquered India through the different policies, how they developed their military power in India, and revolt of 1857, Battle of Buxar, Battle of Plassey, then impacts of British rule in India. So such are the topics we are going to learn in the first chapter, rise of British rule in India. Now in the second chapter, First World War and Russian Revolution. So if we learn this title, First World War and Russian Revolution, it itself says the content of the chapter 2. First World War started in 1914 and end in 1919. The war had started by Germany and ends by British. So William Kaiser was the man who was responsible for First World War. He was German king and he had an ambition to rule over all the countries or all the world, means countries of the world. He was in a favor of colonization. He wants to establish German supremacy in all over the world. That's a second European power, Britain, opposed with a group of nations, and that was a big world war. So in this chapter, we are going to discuss reasons of the World War One, then causes of the World War One, then effects, economical effects, and reforms after World War One, then establishment of a body, then UN to maintain the peace and harmony of the world. In between, a new kind of revolution that is started by Russians, and that's called Russian Revolution. No doubt, it was a most or very big violent revolution in all over the world. So, Russian Revolution. Let us talk very briefly about Russian Revolution. Before Russian Revolution, the ruling system in all over the world was kingism. A king ruled in all over the world. Means different kings. For example, William Caesar for Germany. Then, as India was having a princely state, 562 princely state. Then Tsar for Russia and Chinese Emperor, etc., etc. So, all the people of Russia influenced by Lenin, who was a revolutionary, and Lenin was influenced by a communist ideology. So, communist ideology present by Marx influenced Lenin, and Lenin started to addressing the people, and that leads them against the Tsar. So finally what happened? They opposed Tsar, and a communist government established in Russian Revolution. How was the Russian Revolution? When did it start? When did it end? So such kind of thing or such kind of information we will definitely learn in the topic Russian Revolution. So, this is our second chapter. Now lesson number 3, movement towards a new world. Movement towards a new world means after a very big disaster in First World War, all the European powers, Asian powers, and Eastern powers and Western powers, that means countries of all over the world get united, and they united in the form of United Nations. They shoulder the responsibility to the powerful countries like America, British, Russia to maintain a peace and harmony of the world, because all didn't want to a second world war that was very disaster and very miserable for all over the world, because during the First World War, economy of all the nations collapsed, trade collapsed, then casualties, and very big tragedy it was that human or mankind never forget. So they try to reform the world, and that's why they start a new ruling system, as I said you, communism, democracy, and try to reform the world and try to make the people happy, and all the nation lead themselves toward a new world that gives them or gave them happy life, developed life, and their standard of living can be improved. So that's all about in this chapter, national movements in India. If we talk about, that's all about in movements towards a new world. Now national movements in India. Now new lesson, national movements in India. That gradually all the Indians started awakening due to printed media, due to English education, and a kind of awareness find in Indian society. So all the aware people started to oppose British colonialism. They started to different satyagrahas, different movements, and oppose Britishers and challenge them to leave India. So we all know that SALT movement, Jallianwala Hatyakand, then boycott movement of India, Chauri Chaura, then Kankori train loot. Such are the movements that we are going to learn in this chapter, national movements in India. Now, movement towards independence. So when actually our independent movement started by our great revolutionaries of revolt of 1857, but unfortunately due to some reason it was failed. But now after First World War, that means 1920 to 1930, the national movements or movements for the independence reached to high peak. Gandhiji, then Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel and Subhash Chandra Bose, right, approached independence with their own philosophy. For example, Gandhiji's stand for non-violence. Then Subhash Chandra Bose prepared Azad Hind Fauj and tried to get the freedom with their means. All the leaders have their private philosophy, and with that philosophy they want to receive independence. So such kind of movements we are going to learn in this chapter, movement towards independence. World after 1945. Friends, you all know that 1945 is the year when Second World War came to an end. But Second World War was more disaster compared to the First World War. Hitler, in my opinion, it was a hero, right? Because Hitler caused Second World War, no doubt about it. But if you study history, due to the Second World War, all the European powers, Spanish power, British power, and other powers who spread the colonization in all over the world, that came to end due to First World War. Because if we quoted example of British here, then British spread their colonization in all over the world, mostly African continent, then Eastern continent like Australia, then Asian continent. They spread their colonization in India, Afghanistan, China, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, etc., etc. But due to the Second World War, their economical power and military power weakened and weakened, and finally what happened? They didn't able to rule over their colony. So they show like a civilized the country and made all free. So that was a very strong aspect, in my opinion. The World War II. World War II is a very strong aspect to get freedom or give freedom to all the colonized countries. No doubt that national leaders also contributed a lot, but this is also a very strong reason or aspect. India also got benefited by Second World War. Due to Second World War, the British lost their administration efficiency and make all free. So how was world after 1945? So Germany was divided into two segments, right? The one part of the Germany ruled by Russians, one part of the Germany one part of the Germany was ruled by Allied group and Axis group. So Germany was divided into two powers, right? Allied and Axis. Then problem of illiteracy, hunger, unemployment, economical collapse, then other negative aspects of the Second World War we are going to learn into this chapter. Now, we do have a last chapter in our unit 1, that's history part, post-independence India. So if we talk about post-independent India, how was India then before independence? So we do have problem, that means India having a problem of communalism, then problem of partition with Pakistan, means our nation parted into two. One is India, one is Pakistan, then casualties during partition, and problem of hunger, then independence of Diu, Daman and Goa, then Pondicherry. So such kind of things we are going to learn in this last chapter. So friends, this is our history part, and previously I have discussed how our textbook is. Our textbook is divided in 3 segments. I gave you a very brief introduction, which kind of chapters and which kind of information we are going to learn in every unit. And here we have completed our discussion on unit 1, that history part, with the little introductions of every chapters. So today's session comes to end here. Now we are going to meet on the next Tuesday. Okay, best luck to all and try hard to understand this. Thank you very much.